Hello and welcome back to On the House. Today we have Katarina Perisic, co-founder of Jobzzard. Jobzzard isn't your typical recruitment agency. They combine real human vetting with AI scoring to create like a true win-win for both employers and job seekers. And on top of that, they help out with the hard stuff, positioning, outreach, rating, shortlisting, and much more as well. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome, Katarina.
Thank
Uh,
you, Joe.
Thank you for being here. Can you walk us through, why you got into recruitment and how that journey started for you?
Yes, of course. Well, probably as many recruiters would say the same, I came into recruiting by accident. But somehow I used to get to love it even more. Like each day passes and I get to love it even more on daily basis. But I basically wanted to do like an internship in recruiting aspect, but when I walked into it, I was like, oh my God, this is like fully traditional recruiting. I don't like it. This is like a complete hell no for me. And then I completely switched to the different side, which was sales, more on the inbound side at that point. So we didn't do any cold leads or outbound. We did only inbound and warm lead sales. And basically, I was the first point of contact. But a couple of months in, we had someone to dive more into recruiting and hiring because we were expanding crazy quick, and we had to hire 20 to 30 people at the same time for different offices. So it was our Belgrade office at that moment, but also Armenia and Georgia. And somehow it landed on my plate. And that's how I actually started enjoying recruiting because I had like completely hands off with everything. I was managing the full onboarding, first interviews, coordinating with team leaders to finalize actual onboarding, and even the stuff that was more generalistic, like payroll, admin, contracts, and anything, which I, to be honest, don't like. That is the part of HR that I really don't enjoy doing, but it's a part of the role, right? And yeah, fast forward to today. After that, I was more recruiting agency side on the recruiting agency side, and there I also had some freedom in terms of exploring different aspects, changing the ways that traditional work and recruiting is actually all about. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is something that I like and prefer because I have complete freedom to actually do the matching, not just placing someone from point A to point B and then just leaving it as is. And that's basically how I started developing the whole Jobzzard idea because I saw huge potential to get out entirely from the traditional recruiting side and switch to something that is more, I would say, mix of technology, especially AI these days, but also human touch.
Awesome. I think we've broken up a little bit.
Yeah,
Are you there? Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah. Now I can.
Oh, awesome. Oh, as long as you can hear us, we'll carry on. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've experienced like the full breadth of like you started out doing obviously inbound warm stuff, then you actually got involved in the recruiting side, and you've done like basically every kind of part of the job. What's am I right in thinking that like with traditional style, it's more like less caring about the job seeker and that modern style is more matchmaking? Because you mentioned the word matchmaking. Is that
Yeah.
right? Like how else would you say it like modern differentiates from like traditional?
Yes, exactly. Because I think when it comes to traditional recruiting, everyone was having like at least 5 rounds of interviews, task tasks, personality tasks, background, reference checks, like you name it, we had it all. And at one point, I think when COVID hit and everything started changing so quickly, I think people wanted to spend less time during the whole process. And at that point, I think companies have been diving more into the recruiting side of things. So they had their skin in the game. But before that, it was vice versa. So only job seekers were the one that were seeking those jobs, and companies were dictating the rules and everything. But then somehow things changed, and we needed to move quickly in order to attract A players. Because I think, especially today, that's something that is relevant. And I have seen so many companies that miss out on global talent because they have super long processes. They still want to stick to what's known to them, and that's traditional recruiting. So they still believe that, I don't know, personality tests will push them super far and that they will actually hire that right talent, which in most cases, from my experience, is not the case. They still churn, they still don't enjoy the work there. They don't want to be your ambassadors. And I think today the game has changed on the opposite side, and now job seekers also have more opportunities to attract and see what works for them, not just the opposite way.
Yeah, that makes sense because like the pool of talent will, they'll have like common traits, like they might move on fairly quickly, or they might want to see like certain characteristics in a company,
Yes.
and then if they don't have that, then actually like the talent has the power, and it's kind of this that yeah, it's like this symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
What are A player? I hope you don't mind going off script, Katerina, or would you
Of
prefer
course, of
would you
course.
prefer, is that okay?
Yes.
Um, so what are A players looking for in jobs then? Sorry, in a job, but also in a hiring process, and and then
hmm
how can companies like adapt to that?
I would say the most important thing these days is transparency, flexibility, and growth opportunities. It sounds cliche, but when I speak directly with these candidates, especially the ones that I see a huge potential and a huge match between, for example, them and this company that we're currently hiring for, that is the key thing that I see. Like they always want flexibility, but not in terms of, oh, I want to work from Bali today, tomorrow from Spain or something like that. They want flexibility in terms, if I get my job done, I don't want to be bothered or micromanaged on the other side with some stupid things that doesn't make much sense or they don't move the needle, right? And that is something that is super important, plus growth opportunities. Again, not something like, oh, I want a specific title to have, I don't know, if I started as an executive assistant to become a chief of staff in next 3 months. It's not that. It's just the visibility, the opportunity for them to take ownership of their work, but also their mistakes, not just handling something and then when they make a mistake, oh, it's a huge problem for everyone, for the company. It's usually reversible, right? So you need to give them ownership over their work. Even if they make mistakes, they will do it, they will learn from it and never repeat it again. Probably also share that with someone else, more junior or someone who is less experienced, so they don't do the same mistake after some time. So I would say those are the top I would say two or three things that A players are right now looking for. And the companies who are super transparent and have this prepared beforehand, even before they start hiring, I think that's a huge game changer on that side as well.
Wow, that's so interesting. Do you think that all the power is with A players then, or do you think that companies still have some power, and how do maybe it can swing too far on the talent side, or it can swing too far? Like what does it look like right now, and are companies, are they catching up, are they modernizing, or there's still like a mismatch between them?
There is still a huge mismatch. I don't think people are still there yet. And even with AI, like I think we're still early in the game, and that will just come in the next 5 or 10 years. I think the whole job market globally will change in the next couple of years, and it will be good to rewatch this again at that point to see if I was right or wrong. But I think many job openings and roles itself will completely change, disappear, switch to something else. But that's why some companies need to take a grip and actually move a little bit faster in that regard. Because I saw, for example, many top talent that are looking for jobs right now. So maybe they are not really in some role at the moment, but they still have a couple of offers at the same time. So in that situation, they are the ones that are actually choosing, because they will choose not only because of the compensation is somewhere higher and somewhere is lower, but there will be nuances that will make them choose between your offer and someone else's offer. They might be wrong, you never know, but still at that point, those are the ones that are choosing, not you. and the game is changing in this area, and I think the companies that are doing it right and actually move quicker than everyone else get to grab those A players faster, even if the compensation is not really there. So even if the budget is super low, but they have strong vision, and whether it's a product, service, whatever they are selling, if they know how to sell that to the candidate who is an A player, that's completely changing the areas and the game itself.
Wow, so it sounds like there's like it's all like if you're an A player, there's companies are adapting for you. You've got lots of opportunity around. What are you noticing anything with like junior people at the moment, or like 22, 23 year olds, people leaving university, or like people leaving school looking for a job? I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is people looking for like 3 or 4 years experience for like junior
Yeah,
roles.
yeah.
What should juniors be doing?
Oof, that one is actually a tricky one. I even encountered that part a couple of years ago when I was just starting out. So I didn't have any internship, anything that would actually tie me to some specific area where I bring some actual experience. And everyone wanted it even back then. Now it's even harder because you have so many layoffs, mostly in the US and the European Union, but it's also spreading across the world. So it's a huge problem because the market is becoming oversaturated with executives, with mediors, seniors, whoever it is. And at that point, so if I want to hire someone for, I don't know, marketing manager role, but it's not a senior role, right? So maybe I can even have someone on a junior side, and I'm paying, I don't know, 2K for this role. If someone who was a CMO at one point will join my company for 2K, and I have a junior on the other side, who do you think I will choose? For me personally, that wouldn't be an easy choice, to be quite honest, but most of the companies will choose the one that is more senior with, I don't know, 10 plus years of experience. But for them, what they don't understand is that for them it's actually a paycheck and something stable probably in the next couple of months or years, so they can bring food on the table, and they don't care about your business. It's cruel to say it like that, and I would still consider seniors at that point. But on the junior aspect, you have someone who is hungry to showcase their skills too. They don't even know what they can do. Myself, when I started my first position, I had no clue what I can do, and I did so many things in only 3 to 6 months that many people don't do in 6 plus years.
Yeah, like because you're giving a lot of value to the junior to like skill up and learn that they can take forward, so you can get a lot more out of them, and it's like and they're hungry as well. So,
Yeah.
um, would you do you think this is the biggest problem in recruitment that you're seeing right now, or do you think there's a bigger problem that people maybe aren't talking about, or maybe they are talking about?
In terms of juniors hiring or in general?
Biggest problem that you're seeing in general?
Okay. That's a tough one because I'm seeing so many problems on that side. But if I would have to choose one, that would probably be that they don't take hiring seriously. Companies in particular. Like they don't see it still as a need. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Like I'm talking constantly on my videos and in my posts that you have to treat it like sales. Because, for example, for me, I am also a talent acquisition partner. I'm headhunter as well. And for that approach, you have to be a little bit sales oriented. I don't think I'm like a magician for sales or whatever. Especially now coming from the founder's perspective, it's quite harder to do some cold outbound on that side. But when it comes to candidates and doing and thinking of hiring as sales and presenting the offer and preparing beforehand, that's halfway work done. You are already for sure going to attract someone who is even maybe better than you expected. And I don't think people are spending enough time on that because in the last couple of years, almost all of the clients I worked with, whether they are from US, Australia, Europe, anywhere, they came with a burning desire. Oh, I needed this hire 2 weeks ago, and I mean that's already too late. Like we already had to hire someone 2 weeks ago, and that's already too late. At that point, they maybe have some. basic job description. They have zero clue about the onboarding, about their growth plan. So if for example, let's say they're hiring an account manager with Klaviyo experience for e-commerce email marketing agency. At that point, they want someone who has at least 1 or 2+ years of experience in agency setting, working with specifically e-commerce brands, because it's quite specific niche. And then they come to me and say, oh, but I needed someone like 2 weeks ago with a budget for, I don't know, someone who is a junior. They don't want to train, they don't have time to even speak with their clients, but they want someone who will just go in and swoop everything and make everything work immediately. And at that point, they have no clue if this person will grow maybe to an email marketing strategist at what point, maybe to a project management side once they scale. So you have to think about these things a little bit broader and more into the future, not only in the next couple of weeks or months.
Yeah, it's like companies that are like caring about pipeline now versus like, but it's also like you're going to win over the A player, aren't you? If you have a long-term strategy and like you have a
Exactly.
role that they can like grow into, because otherwise it's like I'm just hiring you just to fix this one problem, but if you've not got
Yeah,
a plan
exactly.
for that person, that's really interesting. Um, so for employers then, I know you've mentioned before about hiring better is one of the big goals, but speed is also important. What would you advise to companies to hire better and to hire faster?
Making processes super rock solid when it comes to foundation. So you have to have your processes not just for the hiring perspective, but also, let's go back to the same example. You're hiring account manager. You need to have your Klaviyo fully set up. You have to have Asana, Trello, ClickUp, whatever you're using for tracking clients, their progress, their campaigns, from smallest assets like, I don't know, pictures for those emails to the biggest ones, maybe podcasts, workshops, anything that is relevant. You have to have SOPs in place. You have to build the process rock solid before you onboard someone new, because and that goes also with the speed side. So if you want to do it quick but also do it on the quality side, you need to mix those two and make processes super solid. So rock solid processes alongside with solid hiring process plus onboarding. If you miss the onboarding, you missed everything, even if you hire a player. It happened to me almost a year ago. We placed one great candidate to help us out with the recruiting side, and we forgot to send him materials for the onboarding. So basically, we just onboarded him on Slack, Google, and that was it. And he winged it. Like he nailed it with zero information in 2 weeks. And then when I came back to him, I was like, but there was slight information that if you read through materials, you would have known that. So it's super weird. And then when I asked him, he was like, but I never got the materials. That was a huge mistake, and we caught it only 2 weeks after. So that was actually because we didn't prepare in advance.
Awesome. And what does like a good onboarding process look like? Like, does the length, I guess the length varies depending on like the job and
Yeah.
the complexity, but typically what do you think makes a good, is it just sending them the materials, or do you think it's like test projects? What do you think needs to be in there?
Depends on the person, not just the role itself. For example, for me personally, I was like 3 days into the onboarding, which was supposed to last 2 weeks, and I was like, just give me interviews and push me out there, because that's how I learn. But it's not the same approach for each and every person or individual. And I always suggest have it like for at least 2 weeks, depending again on the role, but let it vary. If it needs to be shorter or longer, keep it that way. Don't have it like rigidly set. And in that situation, I always suggest starting with some shadowing, even if it's non-sales role, because I know shadowing is usually the best approach for sales roles. But even if it's recruiting, even if it's design, creative role, just shadowing someone who is more senior if you have anyone. If not, I mean, even you as a founder, you have to share some processes and how you deal with things, because someone else will copy the same approach tomorrow before they develop their own approaches. That's how I learned the best. Like, for example, it was super, I wouldn't say stupid, but it was a skill that maybe wasn't so necessary at the point at that time. But I was just collecting notes during the meetings with our clients and shadowing my VP of operations at that moment, and that gave me completely different perspective afterwards. Now I can do sales calls, interviews, everything while I type at the same time, but saving tons of time for both myself and the other side. Plus I get to hear them, so I'm not just um, having information installed in my brain. I actually hear them and respond to them. So that was a huge practice that I learned, and that is something that is crucial, especially during the onboarding. So at that point, you see how someone think on their feet, how quickly they are with adapting to different case scenarios. Maybe even, I don't know, during the interviews or something like that, what I managed to do was having that first person that just joined ask a couple of questions from top of their head, even if it's how are you, like, doesn't matter really, just to see if they would be comfortable with working on that in 2 days or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that because you've obviously got a process, like you say, but then, like if you come across someone like yourself who has read all the materials and is ready to dive straight in,
Yeah.
it's like being able to like adapt it for the individual. If you what bit of a spiky question, but I think it's an important one. If someone should you have at the end of the onboarding period and like a cut off, like they are the right fit or they're not the right fit, and how long should that be? Is it part of the onboarding? Is it a separate? Is it a longer term thing? And then what should you do if maybe you've not hired the right person? How does that how does that look?
That's also a tricky one, because I have experienced parts where someone was supposed to get fired almost immediately, but we took some chances even after the onboarding, and still gave them a chance. Nothing, literally nothing changed. But we also had situations where we, I think, fired too fast. I think we still could have given them some other chances, because the metrics weren't quite right. So the metrics that we were following at that moment weren't weren't showing the same amount of effort as the other part, which was conversion, right? In most cases, it's conversion. Like, whether you're in sales, whether you're in recruiting, on the creative side, conversion is what moves the needle on the other side. And I think that really depends on the role. And again, you need to think about it beforehand, because you need to figure out what exactly is that you are losing. Is it ROI? Is it time in general with the clients? How many clients will churn because of this bad hire? And how much time will it need to be for them to be replaced? Again, you have to consider the whole hiring process. You have to consider onboarding, training, whatever it is needed for the role. And again, who will step in while they're gone to fix all that has been broken? That's a huge problem. And especially since I'm mostly working with startups and smaller agencies, I think that's also one of the key problems that they face. And they don't want to hire too soon or fire too soon, but you know what I mean. Like, they don't want to put their skin in the game, and I sometimes even push them to do that, because what's the biggest thing that can happen? You made a mistake, just fix it and move on. That's it. Like, you, sure, you will lose some time, money, but still you will get to keep your sanity and your team sanity as well, because sometimes it's also the team energy that's been, I don't know, drawing down because of this one person that was actually a mishire.
Yeah. Yeah. What I'm sorry, there's about 20 questions going on in my head.
No
And
worries.
I know we're deviating away from the questions, but I think this is so valuable because it's kind of like diving into some real kind of deeper questions. So I think we should carry
Yeah.
on. Um, when it comes to a mishire, and you mentioned like on performance, But what if they're an A player, but they're a bad culture fit? What's your opinion on what to do in those situations?
I would fire them on the spot. Like 100%. Culture fit is, especially if you are building like a strong culture with the similar work ethic. I think for me personally, that was like a number one everywhere I worked. Like I had great teams for some reason, even with bad bosses and managers, I had great teams around myself. They were at the same time great co-workers, mentors, like you name it. They were there for you. But once we had someone who was a mishire and was an A player actually, they were killers in their game, but they just didn't fit with the role. Something started to shift in the team. So like when you have, I don't know if it's okay to compare that, but when you have a dead body that starts to stink a little bit, and then it just overwhelms everyone around it. That was the feeling I have gotten in this particular situations, and I don't ever want to experience that because I think skills can be taught. It's a lot harder, for example, for a senior to unlearn some skills and to accept something that is crucial for your exact culture, but still, skills can be taught. Like it's easier to change a skill than it is to change someone's behavior or how they speak and think about other people. Like the energy when it's not right, it's not right, and that's the biggest problem. Sometimes you will miss, of course, sometimes you cannot tell that until you started working with someone, but still, if you see something like that, especially if you see that the team is not really into this person, even if they're hitting quota and bringing in the money like crazy, I still don't think it's worth it for a long-term relationship.
Yeah, that's interesting what you're saying about it's skill is easier to teach than like a behavior change, and like that's a great reason why you might want to go for a junior because they might have the right raw ingredients, but like a senior might have just be quite fixed in their mindset. They've been in
Yeah.
the game for longer, less willing to change. But it was something you talked about earlier. This was a few conversations back. Is talent's not so much different from sales, and I can imagine it is because it's like you've got job seekers or you've got prospects who want something and you're reaching out to them and they're essentially coming to you and you're creating some sort of arrangement. But when it comes to talent, like with sales, they can be in market, they can be out of market. I imagine talent, they can be in a job, they can be out of a job. Are
Yeah.
you uh, and you mentioned that previous stuff was like inbound and warm. Are you doing inbound and warm now, which is like they could be in a job, they could be out of a job, but they're coming to you, or are you like outreaching people who are in a job, out of a job? Like, how does that whole thing work?
That's an interesting perspective because on that side, I'm always reaching out. Like I would say more than 80% of my top talent came from my sourcing. I think that has to do with intent. Like again, similar to sales, like if you can see those kind of signals, I think that's the most important thing with outreaching because when you just post a job ad, that's same when you're doing paid ads and no one is watching and no one has a clue. I mean, if you're, I don't know, for Moses or I don't know whoever it is right now that is super popular on that side. Even if you post paid ads, they will probably already know who you are, start reaching out. They will consider your offer more quicker on that end. But if you're no one and you're just starting out, especially if it's just your first hire, you've been in the game and leading your company or an agency for I don't know a year or so, so you want that first hire, who will come to you? So and at that point you need to start looking for talent. And again, I think I have gained many seniors that wouldn't have applied for these roles if they saw a job ad, because when you present it to them, they see themselves as more valuable. Like you're reaching out to them, that means that they're actually somewhere a fit. Even if it doesn't turn out well and they don't get hired, it still creates some bond on that side. And you couldn't imagine how many people I'm still in contact with and I didn't place them before, or I placed them for one role that wasn't actually maybe a fit at that point. So we had to figure out another way. Sorry. But yeah, basically the 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 biggest amount of the talent that I placed, and with them I saw less churn was actually from my sourcing, headhunting, turning them around, even if their role was all right, but they still wanted to see if there is a potential to change, to switch maybe to something else. So even if they're super senior, I always say just try. Like you don't have nothing anything to lose at that point. You should just try because you never know what's going on inside of the company, inside of these people's brains, and maybe they're not super satisfied as it seems like on the front way, right? And that's something that I always keep somewhere in the back of my head when reaching out to these people. But it's still a lot easier than when you're doing super cold outbound on the sales side.
That's interesting. So they don't necessarily have to be out of a job. They can be an A player who's at a
Yeah,
company. You've sensed, you've gathered they're an A player. You sense that there could potentially be, a transition. Like they could want to change. Let's have a chat with them, right?
yeah.
Let's do it. So back to the questions then. So we've talked about process for hiring better and faster. In your perspective, what do you think like the perfect hiring process looks like in terms of like steps and stages?
Hmm. I don't think there is actually a perfect process in that situation for any role, really. But I think it really depends. Like I had roles where we filled them even in 5 days. Like it was crazy. But I actually had a couple of people in the pipeline hired for similar role in the past, so those were finalists. And I already knew this company. I worked with them before, so I already knew about the culture, how would they fit on that side as well, not just skill side. So I actually hired them in 5 days, which was probably my biggest success on that side in terms of time to hire, right? But on the other side, the perfect process would probably have it doesn't mean that it has to have only 3 steps, right? But the days that come by in between those process or in between those steps should be lower. Like let's say today I posted a job ad and started sourcing at the same time. In the next 5 days, I already have to have someone on my table. So someone who is already qualified, though I'm maybe not sure about their language or some specific skills that they didn't mention maybe in their job application or on LinkedIn, CV, whatever. After that, I start with interviews, so that should be done in the next 7 days. So we come to the time frame of maximum 10 days from the day one, and then we want to push like only 2 maximum 3 days until we focus on the finalists. So whether it's a final interview, task, whatever it is for the next step, I want to have like the least amount of days passed in between. So ideally, it would be 1 to 2 days in between stages. So you can finalize if you're, for example, hiring on your own today, you can hire someone who is actually pre-vetted, double-checked everything. You are all aligned with the team in 2 weeks, and that's it.
Wow. So it's not a long business tree, like 1 week, 2 week sort of process.
Yeah,
It's fast. And you mentioned a metric, time to hire, and I know we're going to get onto like your AI scoring and how that separates you and stuff like that in a bit. But what other metrics are important? I can imagine like, sorry, with the AI thing, fit. It helps assess how well this
yeah.
candidate's going to be. Are there any other metrics you track, and kind of what does good look like?
The only key metric that I actually track in the last couple of years that I think that actually can change the game and everything is when you need to do a replacement. Because, for example, we always have 90-day guarantee period with our hires. And at that point, we can start the whole process from scratch, no questions asked, whatever didn't work out with this hire, we will just replace them for free. But that brings totally different questions. So was it on our side? Was there something that we missed with the previous hiring process that if we just dived deeper would like resurface that? And usually that's the case, like something that the client missed to mention and we didn't ask to specific question. I had one role where we were about to hire website designer. We found three or five, I'm not sure, three top killer candidates. We sent the short list. They started interviewing and they were like, "Oh my God, but they're not a fit. Like they don't have SEO knowledge." That was like, but SEO was never, like literally never mentioned. We just lost 2 weeks spent like on interviewing, pre-screening everything. Plus the candidates were really killers for the website designer side. But the SEO, they did know the basics, but they have never done it, right? And at that point, like we had to add 2 more weeks to the whole hiring cycle, which again prolonged the time to hire, prolonged everything. Plus, we had to start the search from scratch. So we had to again do posting a job, do sourcing, do interviews, and everything alongside, which was just a small tweak. It was just one word that changed everything.
This is crazy what you're talking about because it can reflect, it can be someone, people can hear the word web designer and two different people can have a completely different opinion of what that is. Like there's no stand, and
Yes.
then but what that happens is that affects you because I've met web designers who are amazing, but they would spend all of their time in Figma. I might meet another web designer who is like a bit of a hybrid and does a bit of Figma and development, and he calls himself a designer, but he does dev. And then
Yeah.
you've got like, but that they don't know SEO, and then you've got like a marketer who's dabbling, and everyone's just calling web design different, and it could mean different things, right? And yeah,
Exactly. That's why I don't stick to titles anymore, and that's why I always ask some additional questions, especially for the roles that I have done previously. Because sometimes when you're doing some role for the first time, like I remember the one that was super tricky for me was procurement manager. I have never heard about procurement manager before. And it was super tricky for me to understand what are those areas that I should ask the client itself so I can actually find that right talent. And that one position also took a while until we figured out that they needed also sales experience, like not only for the logistics part, but they also had to have some sales experience in terms of communicating with vendors, preparing those contracts, maybe lowering the costs for the logistics sector and everything. And I was like, come on, like this was super easy to narrow down, but just because I didn't understand the role from, let's say, day one. And that's just how it is. I mean, you cannot know everything, and you cannot do everything for the rest of your life. Like you have to have something that you never done, right? We did manage to find that person, but it was crazy. Like it took forever.
I imagine. Is this why certain agencies niche down into certain types of job role and certain industries, and do you guys at Jobzard, do you specialize in any roles?
Yes, I think that's always a better perspective to do it. For example, I spoke with one agency that is only doing cybersecurity roles right now, especially since this niche is booming with AI and everything. And I told them to just stick around with that because they all have that experience specifically. They are all in cybersecurity, so they have the technical knowledge, not just the recruiting part of it. And I think that's crucial. For me, for example, it was always more on the non-technical side. Like I can do technical roles as well, and I'm good at that as well. But it's not my niche. It's not something that I would say it's my forte, right? So my forte, I would probably say, is e-commerce, email marketing, you name it, whatever you need from, I don't know, Klaviyo developer and implementation specialist to project managers, email marketing strategists, whatever it is, I can find them. And for us at Jobzard, we focus more on that side. So e-commerce, email marketing agencies, because we already also have a strong pipeline with great talent, and we usually can resurface some of them that are actually open right now. But on the other side, we also try to help SaaS startups because I think it's super crucial to help them out as a partner in these early stages. Let's say you are raising your first round of investments today. You have to build your MVP. You already have some skeleton of the product, but it's still not there. So you have to, it's still not launching and everything. You need to focus on client acquisition, but you need super strong developer at that point. You need super strong salesperson, probably someone from the GTM space if possible, and you need to be super quick. In this situation, it's either make or break if you don't prepare for the hiring beforehand. And that's something I always emphasize to any of the founders that come to me with this specific problem. Like, we can do it, but I always emphasize we need to lay the foundation beforehand. Even if we hire in 5 to 6 months, that's still all right, but we still need to have some foundation and the specific roles. They don't need to be like super specific. I want front end developer with, I don't know, X, Y, Z skills, but still, do you want someone from the developer perspective? Do you want someone for the marketing team, or you need someone for sales? So those are crucial things to think about when hiring, and that's coming back to what I previously said. They overestimate hiring, and they deal with it just that day when it comes to their table as a task on to-do list, and that's it.
That's interesting. So you help e-commerce, you help SaaS, and you speak to a lot of SaaS people, and they spent some time in e-com, and there's a lot of like similarities. I know there's
Yeah.
agencies out there like Magnet Monster, they do e-com, but they've helped with retention marketing and SaaS.
Yes.
So that's cool. And moving on to a bit more about yourself and obviously and Jobzzard then. So you've got the AI scoring model. How does this work, and how effective is it in scoring? How the fit of a candidate.
Hmm. Basically, I started preparing that AI rating, scoring, however you want to call it, because I was sick and tired of my pre-screening methods the traditional way. So I was drowning literally in applications. So at one point, I was the only recruiter working on 15 roles at the same time, which was about around this period. So the summer is nearly ending, so everyone started preparing like crazy for Q4. And at one point, I remember we onboarded 7 clients at the same time with almost the same positions. So you cannot imagine. Like, I didn't even know how. If you asked me what's my name, I wouldn't know how to answer to that. And that was a huge problem for me because we had to post some job ads to do some automatic work on that side. Uh, but it still didn't work well. Like, it was most of the roles were actually account managers with Klaviyo experience for agencies, and we had many people that were outbound specialists, digital marketing specialists, social media, um, sales, like BDRs, SDRs. Those were all not relevant titles or experience for this role or these roles because we had so many at the time. And at that point, I was like, if I only had one tool, especially with AI these days, that would help me narrow down these people and actually help me pre-screen the ones that I am sourcing, but I'm still not, like, I'm 70% that they're a fit because I don't see enough information on their profile, so I have to talk with them, right? And basically, that's how, even like 2 years ago almost, the idea came to my mind when I just started working with an agency. Actually, it was before that. I was looking for my next job, and I was about to go abroad to finalize my master's degree. And at that point, I needed something part-time, and it was so crazy that no one would give me a chance to work on the recruiting aspect. And then I saw how broken the whole process is, especially when you're hiring. Like, I know I'm 70, 80, 90% there, and still I get the automatic rejections. Like, why? And then I see that they post another job 2 weeks after, then another 2 weeks after, and it's all the same role. And I'm like, what's going on? And then when I entered more into recruiting space, I saw that many things are still manual. And if you want to work properly and actually spot the A players, because back when I had 15 roles, you can imagine how many mistakes I made and sent people that weren't actually near qualified for the roles, because I was super tired, stretched in because of the old people that came super unqualified. And it just spent I just spent too much energy on unqualified talent and totally forgot about the rest. So it was everything was like a flat line for me at that point, and that's when I found out like, okay, we need something built as soon as possible, and that's basically how I started working with my team on AI rating. That's basically like just 1% of the whole platform, but it's still super useful because we even pre-beta, like even before we launched our beta a couple of months ago, we already had some success stories where we managed to hire for 3 roles in only 1 month, with the whole interviewing, pre-screening, sourcing, job ads, like everything, which was a huge success on that side. And that was actually what I wanted to achieve, like lower that time to hire, but actually have more time to focus on qualified candidates, because at that point I was able to focus more on interviews. I was able to ask super specific questions and not stick to pre-screening questions that are, I don't know, do you have 5 years of experience in this and this area, which is a super big no-no for me.
That's interesting. So it saves you a lot of time, and I imagine as well, like you can get a lot of data back, like feedback, like
Yes.
from people like, when they've been in the job for like say 6 months, a year, and you get like a satisfaction score, and you can feed that back in then and help with, I imagine, training the model to get better, um,
Yes,
which is
exactly.
great.
And I like it because we also received some huge positive feedback from candidates as well, because it's super specific. You have just 3 questions to answer. Those are pre-screening questions, but they're all specific. So you need to either have that experience or have the potential to fulfill in this role. And we always aim to be something that they will experience in their first 30 days. So it's quite unique for each and every role. And even if it takes 2 to 3 minutes for them to fulfill, they also auto reject themselves, because they know, all right, if I fake my responses through this, I probably wouldn't have some other opportunities that might be even better for me. We did have a couple of situations with this area as well, so they completely altered their responses with AI. Let's say hiring for account manager with Klaviyo, but we got financial analyst who applied and scored, I don't know, 90%. Again, that's why we also double check on our side, because even when AI is good to help you out, it's still a helper. It's not someone who you can just put on autopilot, because we had back in the testing mode, we had a couple of situations where it flagged responses like fake, and those were completely like human responses, which was super weird. And that's why we always double check on our side so we don't miss the actual talent. But again, if we had like 300 plus candidates that are applying on easy apply on LinkedIn, on our side, when they're applying, we get, I don't know, 90 or 50 people that are actually either super qualified or almost there. So maybe they don't have experience, but they maybe have a potential to bring something from their background or whatever. So we usually have like 20 to 30 super solid candidates that we can immediately interview, which is a huge plus for me, because at that point I already know that they're pre-qualified, pre-screened, and they're already good. So the nuances would be the ones that would actually make a difference in the final stages, and that's it.
Yeah, and I imagine if someone does slip through the net and you're double checking and triple checking, as soon as you've kind of flagged someone as maybe a potential time waster, you can just log them and then not take them forward. So I
Exactly.
imagine from that, a lot of people do try and enter the right information within, then they're not like falsifying it because they know they're going to get caught out.
Exactly.
So, thing for you then. So, obviously, you're playing matchmaker, employers and job seekers. When you're making content, and your content's fantastic, by the way, I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Who are you trying to target? Are you trying to target the companies? Who are you targeting?
Right now, more companies, because I did target more candidates and recruiters actually when I just started posting, because I had like daily frustrations with the processes itself, and candidates and jobs, like in general. But then somehow when I started also working more on Jobzzard, I quit all of my jobs that I was working on previously, because it was too much for me to handle. And actually, the only side that was suffering was Jobzerd, and we needed to lift it out from the ground. I decided to cut ties with everything else and just focus on that. And at that point, something switched inside of me as well, and I couldn't post anymore like completely about recruiters or candidates, because I was still in the trenches, but not so intensive as it was in the previous period. So I started switching my content more towards companies, agencies, smaller startups, because I saw a huge potential there, because I know the struggles that I'm dealing with right now. And it's not just hiring. And that's why I always try to emphasize that you need to prepare for hiring beforehand, because I know there are so many things that are your priority right now. And when it comes to hiring, you're like, all right, someone else will handle it, or I will deal with it when time comes. But that's not it. Like, you need to prepare beforehand. I was literally preparing SOPs for hiring last year. We didn't even hire our first person in Jobzzard, but I know that those SOPs will be a huge skeleton for our onboarding, for like just emphasizing the culture that we are building here right now. And I saw already with some of the specific SOPs, like, I don't know, client onboarding. So I also built that like upfront, but still when the time came, I was already ready. I was already halfway there. And that's why I again emphasize preparing beforehand is like your holy grail, especially when it comes to hiring.
Yeah, and I really like the thing you said as well about the fact that you're targeting a lot of agencies and startups because you know their pains from doing and just
Yeah.
you might not be in their shoot like have the same type of business or product, but you understand their pain, and so then you're kind of solving it for yourself and then using that to solve it for someone else. It's kind of dog fooding in a way,
Yeah,
um
I
which
always say, like, when I started working first on Klaviyo side of things, I think if I started my own e-commerce brand tomorrow, I would already know like how to set everything up from scratch, because I spoke with so many people, both from the candidate side but also from the client side. I literally know how to build flows, pop-ups, everything. I have never done it, like literally never touched Klaviyo in my life. And I think if I entered it like tomorrow, I would nail the game.
I love it, I love it. So um finally then, for employers like needing help with hiring or job seekers, wanting to find their next role, what should they do? What's the best way they should get in touch with you?
Probably I would say LinkedIn and our Jobzer.com website, because on the website they will find specific information about our processes and how we work and what's our main goal, basically how we connect top talent across the globe with US and European companies. But on the other side, LinkedIn and my profile is something that we are building like a knowledge base, I would say, for both sides. So not just employers, but also job seekers, because from time to time, I still experience some specific pains that I know not just founders or agency owners um, like fear and deal with on daily basis, but also candidates and employees. Like, there are a ton of things that can go wrong, and no one is talking about it. So I try to also emphasize on that side, and still, like, even from my free content, I'm sure that someone will gather the pieces and can actually make the hiring for their own side work. Like, when someone's process is working, I don't want to interfere. I always double check in the first call how their process looks like. Why are they hiring right now? What's going on? Why is this a challenge today? Why it wasn't, like, I don't know, 3 months ago? If it's a replacement, so whatever it is, I always try to go so much in depth to find those pains, because, for example, I had one prospect that actually had super strong solid process. The only thing that they didn't have was our AI rating, but they were using AI, and the only thing I said was, your process is like super stable, don't change a thing, just make an AI agent that will actually be super specific, because they're not hiring like regularly. They're hiring maybe two times per year, I would say. And then I just suggested them, we parted ways, and that was it. Like, why would I interfere with your processes when it's already working? It's 99% there. Just make this one change, and that's it. You will be successful. And that's how it was.
That's awesome, and I think like it's obviously just shows like your like commitment to like your love of the profession and like just excellence, and the other thing, but the other thing is if this person moves on, they're going to have great feelings that you've helped them out, that and they might come back to you in the future, and they're going to recommend you. So
Exactly.
I think that's really good. And I'll put a link to your LinkedIn and Jobzzard in the description so people can check them out. And yeah, just want to say like a massive thanks for coming on today, Katarina. I think the main takeaway that I've learned from you is how it's the web matchmaker. It is just trying to want to get the best outcome for both parties, and it's not leaning too much in one direction, and how much you care as well about both of them, and I think that's really what separates you in my view. So thank you for
Thank you,
coming on
Joe.
and sharing.
Thank you. It was really lovely connecting with you on this topic specifically because I was dying to speak about it for so long, and in this longer format. Like it's completely different when you have short form content, but this is completely different, especially when someone on the other side knows the exact questions to ask that will actually move you to think about it a little bit more into depth. And I really appreciate that you invited me to join today, and it was really lovely to be a part of this.
Thank you, Katerina.